Well, welcome back to On the Engine. We have with us today Kody Layahe, who is the rodeo coach for Western. How are things going right now for you, Kody?
Oh, they're going good. They got a little hectic now that everybody came back to school, but so no, it's been good to get back going with it. So
Kids are
yeah,
excited.
yeah, kids are really excited. So I mean, with their spring getting canceled, and there was a lot of kids that were a little disappointed with that, and so now they're ready to get going again. So
Your background a little bit. You rodeoed at Western from when, '09 to.
yeah, I graduated high school in '09. So I was here from '09 to I graduated college in 2014.
Okay.
So
All right.
so I got to and I yep. So I was rodeoed here for 5 years. So yep.
Good deal. And then you were an assistant coach.
Yep, yep. So I was assistant coach here for a year, and then I went to MSU and was the assistant coach there for almost 3 years there, and then got to come back here.
Well, good.
So yep.
It's good to be back in your
Yeah,
stomping grounds.
yeah. I mean, I really
Familiar territory.
me and my wife both rodeoed here for Western, so we loved the town of Dillon, and that was actually part of the reason I went to MSU. Even was she was in medical school there. We didn't want to leave Dillon all that bad. We loved Dillon, a lot. So when the opportunity came to come back to Dillon, we didn't hesitate. So
Good.
yeah.
It's good to have you back.
Oh, appreciate
So, uh, some questions. I was looking down your roster today. Uh, on the women's side, it looks like you've got a pretty young
it.
team this year. Not a lot of seniors, a couple of juniors, then your sophomore and freshman.
Yep.
What kind of season are you looking forward to there?
I'm looking better this year. So I have a lot of sophomore girls this year. I brought in a really strong freshman class for girls last year. And they kind of had a little rough fall last year, but that's to be expected, coming in as a freshman. But luckily, most of them were able to rodeo throughout the summer a little bit. They were having some rodeos, so them coming in, I was hoping for a little bit more out of them last fall, but they kind of again just had a little rough bump. But I'm looking really forward to get to see them go again this fall with the girls. Like I said, the sophomore class of the girls should be very strong sophomore class. We actually, the freshman we had last year, Rylan Lufkin, she was leading the all around going in the spring. So that was the other thing that was hard to kind of judge them last year. They only got a half a season.
Right.
Rodeo was only halfway over. There was still a lot of points available in the spring, so I think we were gonna have a little better spring practice. We were practicing already, and practices were going good. So I think last spring we were gonna shine a little bit more. So we'll see how this. But no, I'm excited for that sophomore class of girls again to get to see them go. So
Then on the men's side, you've got a lot of experience. You've got a lot of depth there.
yep,
Uh, I see there's 3 or 4 fifth-year seniors,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
going.
Yep. Seniors.
Seniors,
Yep. Yep.
going.
Yep. So that'll help there, and I brought in a couple of strong freshmen that to kind of help those, or the seniors can kind of help those kids get going. And I brought in a couple transfer kids this year that I'm excited about too. They're juniors this year, so brought in a couple of those to kind of help. Our men's team should be, like you said, are very experienced this year, so that should they kind of know the ropes already, so they should come into this fall like any other fall and be ready to go.
Oh, good. You recruit a lot of high school kids, obviously. What's the biggest difference between high school rodeo and college level?
I would say experience, and just the kids get. It's kind of like about any sport. I mean, when you get a little older, you start getting a little stronger, a little bigger. You've obviously get a little bit, just more coordinated, just more everything athletic. Just it's the same thing as basketball or football in that sense. So, coming from high school to college, I definitely see it, and it's every event's a little bit different. Steer wrestling. Obviously,
Oh, yeah.
the
Big difference.
yeah. So I was the same way coming as a freshman in college. I was 50, 60 pounds lighter than a lot of the seniors and juniors. And so I had to get bigger and stronger. Sometimes the girls when they come in, as the goat tires and stuff, they're still very, they do very well as a freshman in college still because they're in shape. A lot of them that have done other sports and stuff like that. But biggest thing I can say is just experience. High school rodeos. Once you start going to, you can come in, because in college rodeo you can pro rodeo and amateur rodeo even while you're college rodeoing. So a lot of those kids start doing those too. So they get a couple of years of those under their belt as well. They get more experience, and so those are the biggest things. I would just say experience, and it's again getting stronger and more athletic and those kinds of deals. So
Yeah. What questions should students and parents be asking a college rodeo coach when they're looking at coming to a program like Western or MSU or wherever they want to go?
the first kind of thing that I usually, because sometimes most of them are pretty shy. So I mean, the first thing I try to get out of them is what are you interested in studying? If we're don't really have anything that they're interested in studying, I mean, it's kind of I wouldn't say a waste of their time, but I mean, they might as well, look at that first. A lot of kids still don't really know, so then we kind of go into depth on those questions. Well, what are you kind of interested in? Do we have something that can give you some options at least anyway?
Sure.
But the big, if their kids interested in engineering, then I'm like, well, Western's probably not for you then. I don't try to steer them away from Western, but I would rather them not waste their time educationally first. So that's kind of the first question I get off the table with them is, what are you interested in studying? So the other question I would ask them is, or have, parents and students should be concerned about is, what kind of environment it is, and what kind of the culture is in Dillon, which obviously, Western has a strong culture with rodeo, and so that's a,
Oh yeah.
and then practice, that's always a big one too, especially in the rodeo world. There's a lot of different, facility wise and those kinds of things. So those are the kind of the big questions that, as a student or a parent, I would, be asking. So,
What kind of advice would you give students when they're learning on how to prioritize their responsibilities, school, practice, rodeos, that kind of stuff?
what I give them advice is, Western kind of helps out with that. To me, in my mind, with the block program, that really narrows down it simplifies your schedule throughout the day. You get to, your class schedule every day is from 8:15 to 11:15 or 12:15 to 3:15, and so you start out there. When your classes are. So now that you know when your classes are, and our practices start every day at 4 o'clock. So now you know your class and your practice are. Now start prioritizing the rest of your day. If you have morning class, go get your homework done in between class, or if you have an afternoon class, make sure you're getting stuff done in the morning. So, school first, obviously, that's what we always push for, and that's
academics first.
Yep, and that's what I tell kids all the time. Anytime you're struggling with school, let me know of that. So, I mean, that takes precedence, because if you start going downhill in school, then obviously you're not going to be able to rodeo for one, and then two, that you're going to be here, a long time, and school's not cheap, and or anything like that.
That's
so,
right. Yep.
So.
What other responsibilities do the Bulldogs that are on the rodeo team have besides just going to rodeos? I mean, community involvement, that kind of stuff.
Community involvement, we try to, and that's something I'm expanding more, but we try to get to the schools. We do, we go down there for the Heritage Days every year and try to, and just get the kids', voices out there with the community and just get them involved with rodeo. We go down, normal years, we go down and help out with the like the Labor Day stuff, and but that's something I'm trying to expand even more, talking with the JCs and stuff like that, just getting people involved in the community, because we want to, we don't have a program without our community, so trying to get the kids out there and just let them meet kids. A lot of kids have jobs in the community and those kinds of deals too. I don't think I don't think you can come through college rodeo and not work at the stockyards, so
Right.
so getting kids out there, and so those are kind of and college rodeo kids, they have a lot of them might have they do get jobs. I don't, that's maybe different than some of the other sports that, especially in the wintertime, because they have a lot of responsibilities on their own, just taking
Sure.
care of their horses.
Exactly.
It's a little different. I mean, we can't put a horse away for the winter time and just forget about it. Yeah, so and they take a lot of gear too, to protect them, and so kids get a lot of jobs just to raise money, and actually kids have to pay their own entry fees at the rodeos. So Responsibilities, I mean, we try to do a lot of the community stuff, and like I said, a lot of them are busy with jobs and stuff in the wintertime when we're in the off season. So
For us that don't know a whole lot about the college rodeo team, so how do you decide what the composition of your team is when you go to a rodeo?
So rodeos, there's two ways that we go to the rodeo. So every kid gets to that's on my team on the roster gets to go because you can compete individually as well as team points.
Correct.
So every kid gets to go, and then I decided when we get there. So you pick 6 men and 4 women that count towards your team points, but they're still also competing individually. So there's kind of a little bit different dynamic there, but a lot of bigger, like some of our teams even if you're not on the points team, you can still basically play defense for the because if you're knocking some of the other kids out from the other schools down, sure, you're still contributing to our team even though you're not on our points team. Right. We can only pick 6 and 4, so there's a lot of kids that are always on that bubble. That's always determined at the rodeo that when we get there, and so but no, they can compete individually and then team points. So
From week to week, your team can change.
yep, every rodeo. Yeah, we pick it. We have to have our points team in an hour before the rodeo. Okay. So I can change it. Yep, every weekend. All so, right. Yep, and so that's what I look at when we get there. Sometimes a kid, might be really rolling, so I'll put them on there. And luckily being in this region and rodeoing at all these arenas and stuff, I know the setups, and I kind of, you can kind of see at practice what kids are doing good at what situations. And yeah, I would say the biggest thing, like the barrel racing, sometimes that's one of them I switch around a lot because we have big pins, little pins, and those kinds of things. So, okay. So every kid, I mean, we usually have about 2 on the girls team that stay pretty solid, and about 4 on the men's team, and then there's always kind of 2 men and 2 girls that kind of really change every weekend. So, sure. Okay, well, that's but good. Like I said, they still all contribute because, like I said, they can play a little bit of defense for you too. If every one of our kids is placing at the rodeo, that means none of the other teams are getting any points. That's right. So that's right.
Okay, Kody. So the questions I have are just kind of comparative to other. I don't want to call them conventional sports, but in college, rodeo seems to work in a little bit different ways. Yep. So first question, if you ask people about a junior college in most sports, the athletes go to these junior colleges after 2 years, then they have to make a move to another 4-year university. In rodeo, that's not the case. Can you explain a little bit how that works?
Yeah. So, I mean, in rodeo, it's a little bit different. I mean, you have to be still pursuing a degree. So, I mean, if you get an associate's after 2 years and you want to go get another associate's, so, say you get a welding degree and you want to go get their school has a business degree, their, associate's degree, you can stay there at that school for those 4 years and get another associate's if you would like. The only difference is that if you go 3 years and do not have an associate's degree, then you do have to transfer because obviously, you have to be pursuing it. Sure. You have to have a reason to be staying there, I guess. So. That's about the only difference. Most kids still do because obviously, they want to if they want to get a bachelor's degree, they need to leave. Sure. But there are some kids that, if they go, especially trade schools and stuff like that, they will stay 4 years. I've known several kids, they go get a horseshoeing certificate, a 2-year associate's deal, and then they'll stay and get a business associate's, because they like that school, they like how it's set up, so they want to take 2 more years there with those classes. So that's the only real difference, I guess. We again, still try to get kids to transfer and get their bachelor's and stuff like that. But if they like where they're at, they can stay. So
great. And then if one of the older kids on the team has expired their eligibility, but they're the regional director, they get another year of eligibility. Can you explain how that works a little bit?
Yep. So there's one regional director. It's a student representative for every region. So every region has a student that's a representative, and then one of the coaches is the faculty director, and they're the coach that they're the voice of helps the kids out. It helps the regional director out a little bit because obviously most of us that would have done it, we're still in college, and sure. But you're the voice of that region. So you're the voice. So our student director is the voice of the Big Sky region. And so he gets a 2-year term, and so usually we elect them at the end of their junior year, and then they get to do it their senior year, and then they get a 5th year to add on to that. We kind of like to do it, and I think part of the reason they did that is that way it's an older kid. They've been in the region for a couple of years. They kind of got the hand, they obviously most of the time you got a little more confidence that way too. It'd be hard for a freshman or a sophomore maybe to have the voice, but your responsibilities are you go to 2 meetings every year. You go to one in December. Now it's usually actually held at the NFR where all the regions come together and they vote on rule changes. Just they vote on everything down there that has to do with college rodeo, and then you have one at the college finals too. And your other job is you're to help try to raise money for our regions and stuff with corporate sponsors and those kinds of deals. You're also in charge of carrying around all the flags for the sponsors to every rodeo. You have to be out in the arena at least at all times, unless you're not when you're not competing. You're the voice again of the students. So if a kid has an issue or a complaint, they come to you. So it's a great experience for those kids. But yeah, so that does give you an extra little, and then I think a little incentive to do it too. So you get a 5th year out of it. So
Sure.
yeah.